Welcome back to the IGEAS Summit here. We've had amazing panels go out throughout these entire 2 days, and we have an exceptional one here, starting off a little bit early here, but we're ready to get it going on here as we're going to be talking about how to leverage esports and gaming technology to teach vital life skills. There are traits that define effective leaders and experienced competitive gamers alike. In this panel, we'll explore an alternative narrative that allows students to realize their own potential in an intuitive and in confidence building way. My name is Martin Ohms here. I am the operations coordinator in Canada for Gamers Outreach Foundation, as well as I am an event manager for many organizations such as DreamHack, ESL, UGC, and many more. So I'm excited to be leading an exceptional panel of great individuals here. I'm going to be starting it out here introducing the Esports Scholastic Instructional Coach over at the North American Scholastic Esports Federation. It's Jarrell Batak. Thank you very much, Jarrell. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great, great. I look forward to talking with you just a few seconds. I'm going to introduce everyone here. Next, we have the Gaming Concepts and Social Studies teacher over at the Complete High School in Mays. It is Michael Russell.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Good, awesome. Joining us all the way from UK, from the Staffordshire University, it is the course leader in esports, is Kevin Chung.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And then we have the Invent Global's own director of innovation, it is Donald Marinelli.
Pleasure to be here. And greetings from Pennsylvania.
There you go. Yeah, we have a good arrangement. We got Canada, USA, and UK all here on the panel here. So now we're going to be talking about a lot of the vital life skills. But before we get into it, everyone's coming in from quite different backgrounds here. So I'm going to start it out from Jarrell here. Talk to us a little bit about what got you into gaming and esports as a whole.
Well, my background is in human development and career technical education. I've been an instructor for grades from preschool all the way to high school. I've taught overseas. I've been a virtual educator for school in the cloud. But in my last role, I designed and developed, piloted and expanded a statewide STEM enrichment program for expanded learning centers in California, mainly around topics around multimedia making and Minecraft. And I think it was really the work around Minecraft that led into this sort of exploration of, not just game-based learning, but especially with the fruition of esports, how can we integrate that, especially with all of our interests? And so I started going down that journey. Last year, I was brought on board with NASEF, the North American Scholastic Esports Federation, to pilot their Scholastic Fellow program. And that's where I really got interested, because part of it is it's a community of practice of educators who are looking to integrate scholastic esports into their programs. And so, I think a lot of my work with educators and training them in STEM, really looking at how we could step into this new space of scholastic esports and supporting that endeavor. And, I've played games pretty much all my life, but I think where I really see the value and benefit is that cross-section of learning and intentional play.
That's phenomenal. I can't wait to dig a little bit deeper into that and learn, because education is changing. We were talking prior to this call here, just how much has changed over the past 10 years in the way we educate the students. So I look forward to talking a little bit more on that. Now, Michael, talk to us a little bit, because you guys run an exceptional program there. It's kind of unique what you got going down in Mays. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I've been an educator for 6 years. I was a business owner before that, and been a gamer my whole life, so probably about 37 years. And I made a few trips out to California myself to BlizzCon and done some fun things there. And as I was there, I thought, man, this is a great tool we could use for our students. And I mean, I kind of grew up with all the stereotypes of gamers can never amount to anything, and you're in your mom's basement all the time. So it's kind of just a vengeance thing for me sometimes, because I'm just like, I can prove that that's not the case. And so Dr. Custer and I, my cohort, and she couldn't make it today, but we got together and we tried to find some curriculum. We were unable to find any at that time, so we just decided to write something that we would just kind of use in our school, and some other places have adopted it and use it. And it's more of just an intro to the gaming and some things that go along with the programming in gaming. And yeah, we see our beautiful lab behind us now, and we were fortunate to get a new lab this year, and just love what the kids are able to do with it. And the outcomes that the students are having has been excellent. So, and I'll share some of those in a little bit.
That's awesome. Now, Kevin, you have yourself a quite exceptional esports background. Going into now where you're working as well about it. I know people have probably known a little bit from watching the other panels, but give us a little bit of a brief behind the scenes of what you do.
Okay, so I'm actually new to academia or anything. I joined Staffordshire University last year, but my background is within industry. So I started off as a semi-competitive League of Legends player in the UK. So I formed my own team, called Show Gaming. So give them a nice shout out over here. We competed. We had a good run, I'd say, for a year or two. Then I dabbled into on-air talent roles, for example, color shoutcasting, then becoming a member on the analyst desk. And then eventually I joined Riot Games over in the European office in Berlin. So I joined them as an in-game observer. So for those who don't know, an in-game observer or in-game director is almost as if it's the camera person for the game. So of course, esports, you have someone following the action. So that was my role at the time. And then I dabbled in other roles such as tape producing. So I was managing video content for the broadcast. Back then it was called the EULCS, now it's called the LEC. And now I'm in academia. So I've several different areas in esports. So competing, team management, coaching, on-air talent. But I guess the majority of it comes from live broadcast production, especially from the esports side of things. And now new to academia, still learning, but I've got that drive, I've got that passion, and I've got the students to back that up. So I'm happy
Love
with
to
it right
hear
now.
that. Love to hear that. Now we're going to move on here to Donald, who I believe you said 40 years of experience in the educational field. You know, you've seen it all here. Now, I got to ask you, you're working with Invin Global. Tell us a little bit about this amazing program you guys have put together and what your title means of innovation, because you're always constantly looking to what's coming new and fresh.
Well, the fact of the matter is, Invent Global exists in large part because of me. I was part of an investment group based here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that was looking for the next big thing. And since I'm the opposite of Kevin in that I've been involved in academia for over 40 years and started as a drama professor at Carnegie Mellon University, which is the oldest drama school in America. But then in the mid 90s, realized that video games were going to take over. So I went over to computer science, and within 2 years, we started something called the Entertainment Technology Center, one of the first video game centers in the country. Half our students were from CS, the other half were from the arts. Did that, loved it. But then esports came along, and esports came along right when I retired, and I had done a lot of work in Korea. So I've been to Korea many times, and we had great relationships with the Korean government that would provide scholarships. So when this investment group was like, "What's the next big thing?" and I said, "Well, it's esports," and they said, "What are esports?" and I said, "Well, you know what? Let's go to the source." So I contacted my Korean partners, and they told us about Inven Korea, which blew us away. And that led to this relationship. And so for the last 4 years or so, I've been connected with Vito and the gang at Inven. And then we found Nick, who was from Arizona State, and I'm a visiting professor at Arizona State. So it's all come together.
No, it definitely is true. And gaming, it's a wide worldwide full of connectivity. You know, you connect the dots and it's interesting to see where it all leads towards. Now, I'm going to send this one quickly over to Jarell and Michael before we get in towards these life skills. You guys work hand in hand towards putting in, you got to, I guess you could say, put the education in the forefront relation to gaming, creating a curriculum that kind of wasn't already there. Jarell, I'm going to go towards you. Talk to us a little bit about that journey and what it's like being able to put something that I guess captivates the students directly.
So, and I can't speak to this. I know Kevin Brown's in the chat, but the NACEF team has done a great job in really looking at all the different avenues to integrate scholastic esports, legitimately. They started with the initial ELA curriculum that is UC A through G approved, partnering with UCI to write out a lot of that curriculum. Obviously, Orange County Department of Education was also involved in that process. And then, now we're moving into this realm of exploring career technical education. And so NACEF has put together, 15 career pathways that align with the esports ecosystem. And, I think part of what we're exploring now is we have, the curriculum, but how are educators utilizing it? And so my role working with the Scholastic Fellows, again, it is a community of practice. Part of the work that we do is develop curriculum together. So we're looking at each other's curriculum, we're giving feedback on different ideas. And then I think what's beautiful of it, from last year, all of the fellows developed their own curriculum module that reflects the particular implementation that they did in their classroom. And I think the beautiful thing about that is that there is no one way, right? You can see all these different opportunities depending on the strengths of the educator, the student community, what are the students interested in? And from that, we were able to create a community library on the NASEF website of all of their different curriculum, out there. And for me, I could say that I can write curriculum because I have in the past, but really my role is lifting up, what they're doing. And I think there's so many different ways. Again, I don't think there's one way. So if you say that this is the way to do scholastic esports in your classroom, I think that's suspect. I think part of what we're doing here is exploring all the different avenues, right? Because there are all these different roles and careers within the ecosystem. So how can we celebrate that? And at the core of it, it's all student interest driven. And so we're continuing to explore that with, not just the community practice, not just NASEF, but, I think as a whole, as the esports education community.
Now, Gerald brings a great point, Michael. There's a lot of teamwork that goes on. He's mentioning working with one another, and with gaming, teamwork's a huge aspect. Talk to us a little bit about how you utilize teamwork in gaming to build that educational curriculum.
Well, I mean, that's probably the number one thing we work on is teamwork and the toxicity and working together and talking. And I mean, on our curriculum, I mean, it's kind of a trick, right? So we have a gaming curriculum and the kids all think, hey, I'm going to play games all day, right? So but that's not what we do. I mean, we focus on a lot of specific topics. And like Darrell said, I mean, there's so many careers available to people out there. I mean, when you talk to somebody about esports, they're like, well, what are they going to do? Just be a professional video gamer? And it's like, well, what is a professional football? When a football player plays in high school, they're not most likely going to be a professional football player, but they do a lot of other things while they're in college. So, I mean, we kind of look at it like that. There's so many opportunities that are available to these kids, and from our curriculum standpoint, it's more about the individual student and how the curriculum can affect them, but then also broadening that to where then they get into the teamwork and then the things from there. So, we work more on the reflection and thinking about how I acted in the game and behaviors and focusing on nutrition and sleep and things like that. So it's more about just creating a good human being than using games to do that, as opposed to I mean, I'm not the best coach in the world. I mean, but I can teach them certain things, but I'm not going to get them to the pro level. So, we use it more to work on those skills and create, like I said, we're trying to create good human beings in that ecosystem. So, and if you do that through a specific English curriculum or use our curriculum or any other thing, I mean, as long as we're all moving in the same direction and we're doing what's best for our students, I think it's fantastic. So.
No, I definitely agree with you. It is greatly appreciated what you guys can do and mix and match different types of curriculums, like you say, utilizing different types of subjects within gaming. Now, Kevin, you're fairly new towards that type of educational field. How have you utilized your own experience to be able to provide these essential life skills of seeing from what it looks like from being at the very top to where you're own teaching?
So students have definitely taken a lot of interest when I bring in my real world examples. So the events I've worked on, whether that's, IEM, whether that's a ELCS broadcast, or maybe like an MSI for League of Legends specific focused events anyways. But they like it how I apply those events into my teaching. I say, oh, we're going to learn about the layout of arena. Why was it laid out like this? Well, have a look at this. Have a look at Katowice 2017, right? It's a front-facing arena. There's obviously reasons behind this. Everyone facing one direction. And that's why, I mean, we look at IEM, shout out to the amazing stage layout. It's always amazing. The lights, the stage, it's beautiful. And that's what they want you to see, right? However, when you look at other maybe events going into the more of an arena, the circular kind of stage layout, they tend to have more of a performance aspect to it. So whether that's live music production, we see this a lot of Riot Games and their kind of world international tournaments. And this is something that students value because, one, they're aware of it, they're familiar with it, and they watch it. So I take something that they know and they already experience themselves and then apply it to the teaching material. So it's almost like point, here's an example, and then I just explain further in detail, covering those areas.
No, it's very true. When you're able to create those real life examples, students really reflect upon it because now they can see how it gets used in a real life world. Now, Donald, there's just a strong thing right now where everybody is looking towards, you were saying earlier, everyone's looking towards esports. How important is having a strong disciplined manner, just knowing, okay, where to go, when to jump, how to do this, being able to find that discipline within yourself to how to, I guess you could say, follow your own life pattern to be able to get to yourself towards that higher stage.
Well, it's pretty fascinating because for 15 years I was the associate department head of CMU drama, and frankly, I had a really tough job. I'd go to Hollywood for parties or go to New York for Broadway openings, but I was increasingly feeling distance from our students, the young people, and it was quite clear that video games in the mid 90s, although you couldn't really say that in an academic setting, you had to say interactive digital media was really taking over. And I realized that it basically was going to eat our lunch because it introduced the whole dynamic of interactivity. And interactivity allowed for what I call the democratization of acting. So basically, we in the theater were losing our domain, and the screen had become the proscenium arch that anybody could go through. And also, I also knew it was going to be a huge economic driver. And it's funny because when I went back to the school of drama and said to them, look, we need to get involved in video games, they were horrified. I mean, they were absolutely horrified. I mean, it was like, get back. And I said to them, you know, the last time there was a technological revolution that impacted the theater was called television. And you really didn't want any part of television. And yet part of my job is finding money. And the only people with money nowadays are the TV stars. So I just knew that video games, like television, was going to transform into, it was going to evolve into an art form with tremendous creativity and tremendous storylines. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. But it did take me resigning and going over and knocking on the door of the School of Computer Science, which at Carnegie Mellon is one of the best in the country. And I was so happy when they said, a drama fact, you want to come over here? I mean, they said you would bring a whole understanding of narrative, of character development, and we might finally start having good parties. So I was like, sign me up, and the rest is history.
No, that is incredible backstory there. Now, moving on to where Donald was talking about having that strong narrative, communication and trust as well is a big aspect, Jarrell, on how to be able to grow within the game. And you're having to not only, you were talking about teamwork, you're having to be able to build those communication skills, but not only that, being able to trust and to ensure that everyone is doing their ensured role. How is that implemented within gaming to what you're seeing in real life?
Well, I think there's a huge push right now for health and wellness. I know on the NASEF side, that's really our emphasis. Health and wellness, social emotional learning, right? Cyber wellness in general. I think, obviously there's a lot of concerns in general about the esports industry, and not even just the esports industry, but just students engaging in technology, right? So all of those concerns are out there. And I think what we have as educators an opportunity to do, especially as we're engaging them at younger and younger levels with these ideas, is to really equip them with the tools, and the techniques and resources to help them create that healthy balance, right? Because we know that there's, concerns about screen time, concerns about toxicity. And I think what I'm seeing educators truly doing is creating those safe spaces within whatever it is, whether it's in the classroom or club, and allowing students to learn, if a toxic issue does happen, then that's the opportunity to really squash it and learn from it, right? And I think that's, again, part of our role as educators to provide those opportunities. But I think on the ground, it really takes not just the facilitator, but empowering the students to take ownership of those health and wellness domains, right? And I don't think we are doing a great job yet. I think we're on our way there. But I think there's a lot of educators out there that recognize that SEL is a huge component to what we're doing here.
Now, Michael, Jarrell brings up a great point that you're constantly working to improve your own wellness, but not every time everything is going to be able to succeed. One of the biggest issues with gaming, everyone expects, okay, I'm going to be a teenager. I see all these great gamers. I see the importance of seeing how guys like FaZe Clan are huge success stories. There's a lot of failure as well that comes into gaming. Not everything is going to work right away, or it's going to be able to realize where it's going to take some effort. How can you build confidence within the student to be able to realize, okay, it might not work, or this game you might lose, but being able to find that confidence to know, okay, you can do better. Yeah.
Sorry, there's a lot to be learned from failure, and one, our state actually did a survey of employers, and it was like 2,000 employers, and the biggest trait that they said that our students, as they're getting out of high school, they're lacking is perseverance. And that is such a difficult thing to teach, because schools aren't designed to let kids fail. If you do badly on an English exam, that's going to affect you for the rest of your high school career, probably, because it might give you from an A to a B. So perseverance, I mean, I like to do just kind of introduce a new game to the kids and just kind of throw it out there sometimes. And the first couple of days they're like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And then in 2 weeks they're like, come see what I did, come see what I did, come see what I did. And the importance of that is a success. And a lot of the kids that we're reaching with these programs are kids who have not had an interest in school and are not engaged and did not find success because there wasn't that thing that got them drawn in, like drama or football or whatever their thing was. Marching band. My daughter was a marching band kid. And if she didn't have that, she may not have been the success that she is today. So, and once they feel like they can succeed at something, now they're successful in school. Now I can do school because I found something I'm good at and I belong here. And that's really the important part. I mean, that's what's good for gaming. Sorry, my lights are, but the great, that's what we've found with the perseverance piece, is the kids, they will try on a video game because there's no consequence. The only thing that I've wasted is a little bit of time to figure this problem out, but there's nothing's going to happen to me because I didn't figure it out immediately. I mean, all I'm going to do is try again. And that is so important for kids to learn. And when they get out in the real world, they're going to learn, that's going to come in so handy as we know that. But it's great to see the kids overcome those obstacles and not be afraid to try something new once they've gone through that. So it's amazing to see. I sit back and just watch, and I'm just like, it's just so cool to watch that we're using video games in such a fashion, and I never thought in my lifetime that this would happen, and here we are. So I'm super stoked just to be a part of it. So but that's my piece on that. So
No, definitely a very informative piece. But going on from what Michael's talking about, persevering, it leads into another aspect of when you're able to persevere, you build that poise within yourself. You're able to get outside of your own comfort zone and build it within that experience of recognizing failure towards success. Kevin, talk to us a little bit about poise and what it takes to go from that perseverance to figure out, okay, gaming is not, we're in our comfort zone right now, but once you step out of that comfort zone, you're getting yourself filled with a lot of distractions going on around you, but then you still have to focus upon your job. How do you go about teaching that type of poise to where the players and students can focus on, all right, this is what I'm working on right now, this is what I got to get done?
So that's a great topic in just this conversation right there. So just to expand a bit on what Michael mentioned also about how failure, I mean, I personally think failure is important. I don't think anyone should be afraid to fail, because you can always learn from it, right? I mean, you can learn from doing things well. Great. You do something, good. It went well. However, if you do something and it crashed and burned or whatever, you can still learn from that, right? You just have to take what didn't work, turn it around, and do maybe not the opposite, but what I'm trying to say is you can learn from both doing good things but doing bad things. And I always encourage my students. I always tell them, hey, it's okay to fail. It just depends what you learn from it, right? So take that failure and turn it into something good. And something we do at Staffordshire University is also how we encourage students to run their own events. We encourage them to compete. And it doesn't matter if, it doesn't turn out the best, they didn't get many viewers. It's the fact that they actually get that experience. And even if they fail, they're failing in an environment where it's safe. If you try and run a stream and you didn't get any viewers or barely any viewers, you didn't engage your sponsors, you didn't get that marketing, how much where the sponsorship paid for to get their brand on the stream. But that's okay, because where you're in a safe environment. You're at university, no one's losing money, but you're learning from it. And guess what? Because you ran this event, you now know what you can do in the future. So take what you've learned now, and for, let's say, when you graduate and actually go into the working industry, you can then take the mistakes you've made and try and avoid them in the future where it actually matters, right? Because in industry, if you fail there, guess what? That could be your job in the line. But if at university, you're in this safe environment, you can try, you can experiment, and that's something we truly value. Experiment, be creative, and really just test the limits. This is your time to really test, to really, step out of your bubble and to really break that boundaries and to just go the extra mile.
Yeah, you can definitely say the key to what Kevin's saying is seek discomfort. Find yourself where you're not in that comfort zone and figure out, okay, where can I test my limits? Now, Donald, as a man who knows everything about innovation, talk to us about where you see innovation and leadership go into what Kevin is saying here about within gaming and esports.
Well, I've spent a lot of time of late consulting for various universities, basically trying to convince management that and upper administration about the value of esports, and even still about video games. And since I'm the academic, the boomer academic here, when I approach a college council, the first thing I have to do with them is explain that game does not really capture the level of complexity that we're dealing with esports. When I tell them, you're thinking of a video game and maybe you're thinking of Super Mario, but you're not thinking of League of Legends where there's 144 different characters. I mean, there might, as a drama professor, they're basically very simple plots, but they make up for the simple plots, which is capture the flag, by having this incredible breadth of protagonists and antagonists. What that also means, of course, is that upon completing the game, it becomes a tremendous exercise in, I'm a philosophy major as well, in teleological reasoning. In other words, the game, actions permitted 400 or so. We finally we achieve the nexus. We destroy the enemy nexus, and then it's like, well, what the heck happened? How did we get there? In other words, what led to this final causality? So there's a tremendous amount of reflection about the actions that led to that ultimate end. And then when you take that going forward, you engage in tremendous probabilistic reasoning, which is, I call it chess on super steroids. It's like, every move is going to trigger some other action. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, I thought these were just games. I had no idea that they had the impact and the importance of such deep reasoning and goal achievement.
No, definitely very true. They have so much innovation to be able to realize how there's so many different ways to complete a task. And that leads right into creativity. Now, Jarrell, there's constantly students looking at, okay, once they're playing a game, they see somebody beat it and they realize there must be another way to finish this task. And they try to find within themselves a creative path to be able to figure out, okay, I can do it this way, not the other way. So where do you see that in your own teachings where students find that creativity within themselves to solve a different task a different way?
Well, I challenge that a little bit in the sense that I want to go beyond the game, right? Because we're talking about within the game, but I think there's so much more creativity that goes beyond the game. And there's the fandom artists, right? The ones that are creating the art around the game. There's creativity in even coming up with a brand and logo for your team. There's creativity in even just creating the program in itself, right? There's so much more to it than just the game. And I think that's the important point that I want to make here, is that the game is the feature, right? It's something that we're including, it's the tool, but the creativity is the entire ecosystem of all the different roles that play within this, right? And I think that's the heavy point that I do want to make, is that in every aspect of this, there's creativity, from the student level to the administrator level, because this is such a new space. Like, we all have to be creative together. And part of that creativity, part of that design, is that we should be sharing this with everyone, right? We should be sharing our process. Students should be sharing their work. They should be creating portfolios of their work to share that creativity and keep moving it forward. So I do think that creativity is in all levels beyond the game.
That's very true. Now you're starting to see, Michael, where you're not only seeing creativity in the game, but creativity lead towards academic success and everything else. Where have you seen where students have utilized that creativity and utilize it towards their English, their math, physics, and so on?
I mean, yeah, as Jarrell said, I mean, one of our students created our logo, and even just in our own high school, where they're using things that just from to further our program, and we have, we've had success stories. We're at an alternative school, so a lot of our kids didn't like traditional school anyway. So we had a student that got recruited, is now playing for a local university on their team. She's a creative writing major and a video game design major. So, and she was the captain of our Overwatch team. And, that's just one success story out of a million I could tell you. So, um, and it's just amazing to see what this can do for kids who, especially those kids who have been really forgotten, and they now have something that they can latch onto and can use it to their advantage. And and like Jarrell said, the opportunities in the industry are so great as far as what they can do with that creativity. I mean, they may want to be an accountant, but maybe they want to focus on video game accounting or specific things in that industry. And that's something I think we need to focus on as an esports ecosystem. Is it's not just the video game. I mean, that's a piece of it, and that's a big piece of it, but there's so many jobs that go with that we need to utilize. And I think and Drill actually hit on another good point about the now having the purpose. Now we're given it purpose in school, where before kids would go home and play video games for 3 hours, but they really didn't have a purpose behind it. And now we're giving them a purpose, and they're learning from it. And we're setting the ecosystem now. We're teaching them not to be toxic, and we're hopefully making a better brand of people that as they grow up with all this electronics and the cell phones, which I think are the worst thing we can give a kid ever, cell phones, but I we can see them starting to utilize, and we can actually train this group of kids to be the leaders in this space, and change the behavior that's online and create a good environment for the future beyond them. So
Oh, very true. Now, Kevin, you start to see what Michael's talking about, that personal development within a student to recognize, okay, they got to get more organized. They got to start to, I guess you could say, contract themselves towards their goals at the end of the day. Talk to us a little bit about that personal development you start to see and start to develop once the students start to develop that goal in their mind.
So just like the other skills that you mentioned, so teamwork, communication, poise, and now we're talking about organization. All these skills are so valuable, and this is why esports is so great. These transferable skills that they can develop themselves personally, they can take them into the workplace. I mean, like I said, teamwork. What industry doesn't require teamwork, right? I mean, if you're a manager, leadership, boom, we have all these skills which are necessary. And the fact that you can learn these from something that people are passionate about, like gaming. Like myself, I learned when I was a shot caller for my team. That's leadership, confidence, all these personal development, these skills which I actually then utilize in my life, right? I mean, I wouldn't be here without esports. When I first discovered it in university, made my own team, coached my players as well. I even got involved with the whole business side of things. I never had to pitch once, but I had an idea. I had a team who were doing well, and I was just telling them, "Hey, do you want to sponsor us? Look, we're getting this much exposure. We can, slap on your logo on our apparel, right? And there's some business, personal development skills right there, and it starts somewhere. I have to admit, I wasn't the best at it at the time, but over time, the more I get involved into it, the more I learn, the more people I reach out to. Networking also super important to any students out there right now. But these skills, these has helped me develop. And this is from a personal example. And I've seen these happening in my students right now. I've got students who are studying with us already lined up a job in the industry. I tell them, you know what? You already have a job. You could leave right now and you're ready to work. It's crazy. And these are the ones who are really motivated, right? These are the ones who have that creativity. These are the ones who, during my classes, I ask, oh, look at the skins, the Louis Vuitton skins that Riot Games released for last year's Worlds. We might start to see more collaborations like this, right? Because we haven't in the past seen a lot of branded skins coming into the League of Legends scene. But when we started talking about this, we had, oh, how would Red Bull get involved? Oh, we have Alistair, he's a cow. Or he was a bull, sorry. Or we have Kale, she has wings. Like, oh, how can we integrate Red Bull into those? And they come up with these amazing ideas. And then there's some ideas where students are telling me, like, damn, you could take this to industry and probably, you know, sell that idea. And this is great. It's just great to see students coming up with this. And there's just a lot. I mean, these vital life skills, like I said, I've experienced them. I can vouch for them personally. And I see a lot of other things to get more involved with. And Donald can definitely expand on the whole creativity side of things, the whole narrative and storyline driven, even from a broadcast perspective.
Yeah, he definitely could, but unfortunately, we're almost out of time. So, Donald, if you can, try to give us in the quickest form right now, because you talked a lot about leadership, because you're sharing your stories, but it took a leadership quality within yourself to be able to get everything working like what we have here today. So, and I guess you could say 30 seconds or less, try to recognize how important is leadership in gaming.
Oh, it's tremendously important, but what's equally important is admitting what you don't know. And you know, I'm the boomer among you all. I mean, I know about esports, but I'm not a great player. But I'm smart enough to gravitate to those who are and tap into their energy and all that. So a lot of it is simply admitting, you know what, my skill is in making the connections and getting things going. Your skill is in the actual performance.
No, that is definitely true. Some great points, and I want to thank all four of you, Donald, Michael, Jarrell, and Kevin. You guys were fantastic, showcasing some great stories and pretty much presenting why some of these life skills are impacted towards our daily lives. Now, guys, I want you guys to utilize those swap cards. Reach out to everyone, because as you say, 30 minutes isn't enough. I'm sure you guys have some more questions. You guys want answers, shoot some message. I'm going to hang around as well. But until next time, guys, make sure to stick around. We got some more exciting panels to go. But until next time, we'll see you guys later.